Let's talk about something that's going to catch you more fish with forward-facing sonar, not just with big baits, but every bait in general. It's a general principle that we're going to apply across the board while utilizing forward-facing sonar. So, it's the wintertime. Fish are feeding up. One of the biggest issues I see with a lot of guys that I get in their boat, and there's fish in a brush pile, they can see the fish down there, they bring their lure and they hover it either right at the fish's level here or right above them. And that is a huge mistake. Fish are feeding up. They're not super lethargic like we always thought in the wintertime. They are more apt to chase something down. So I like to bring my bait above the fish. How far above is the biggest question. And the general rule of thumb that I start with is if I drop my bait in the water and I see it 5 foot down, I will start by bringing it 5 foot over the top of their head. That's a great starting point. You're like, man, that seems pretty far. Like, I don't know if that fish is going to come up for it. They'll come up for it. So think of it this way. So the baits we're using, it's not live bait. We're using artificial baits. If you're dropping a live minnow or live shiner down to those fish, yeah, it's an injured little bait fish sitting down low. They'll eat it. But you got to think, what we're throwing doesn't really, at the end of the day, look all that lifelike. You can still tell it apart. There's hooks dangling from it. It doesn't quite have that real live kind of shimmer. It doesn't have that real live look, regardless of what bait you're using. So in my mind, we've got to convince this fish that that's a live bait from a distance away. The further it is away, the more they're able to silhouette it and profile it and really get them pot committed to go after that bait from a distance. So in my mind, the further you can keep that bait away from the fish to start, the better your chances are of catching that fish because you're going to have them more pot committed from a distance. Now, this is where it gets tricky. So we were talking about the distance in the water that you can see your bait down is a good place to start. A lot of the times, if I don't get them to commit from that distance, I will go further above them. And you're like, man, I don't know about that because, like, if the water clarity is only 5 foot and you're bringing it 7 to 8 foot above their head, how do they even know it's there? Well, think of it this way. You're working with silhouettes. So, say you're sitting in your house on your recliner there, and you see a fly flying around the house. Well, when it's down below or right at eye level with you, it's hard to see it. But when it's up higher and it's silhouetted against a bright surface like your wall, it's really easy to see that fly. But the second he drops down around the couches and down low where it's darker, it's hard to see that thing. So a bait above a fish is backlit by the sun. So bear with me here. So that sun is creating light that's coming down, and a silhouette against that light makes that bait pop a lot more as opposed to looking down. So when we were testing our bait clarity, we were looking down at a dark surface. So if we had a white top, we'd be able to see it a lot better. Well, the converse is true. So with a backlit object, and say the fish is right there, they are able to silhouette the bait, little fish, everything, from a further distance if you've got a backlight, as opposed to not. So as a kind of general rule of thumb, on sunnier days, you can get away with bringing it above their head further, and on cloudy days, you want to tuck it down tighter. So it's kind of an outside-the-box theory that I've been working with. It seems to be working out pretty well. You can catch fish kind of bringing the bait right above their head here. Fish will make mistakes. Every fish is going to be different. But as a general rule of thumb, I like to start bringing my A-rig, my swim bait, my Damiki rig about water clarity level above the fish's head. And I'll adjust from there. Again, on sunny days, I'll try to go a little bit higher. On cloudy days, I'll stick to that visibility mark and maybe a little bit lower. One other thing that I've seen, the more intrusive the bait is, the bigger profile, the more disturbance it puts off in the water, the more I can get away with that thing being above its head. If it's a tiny little 1.5-inch Damiki rig, bringing it this far above the fish's head, either one, may not be as intriguing for the fish to come check out, it may be harder to get them to move. While a big swim bait, they'll come a long way to look at that thing. So it's something to keep in mind and something to play with. Hopefully it's kind of made you think about your presentations a little bit more and how the water clarity, the sun, and everything can really affect how those fish will come after a bait based off of the conditions and live scope and everything. So like and subscribe for more stuff to come. I appreciate it, guys.